Hi, everyone, and welcome to our second edition of Elite Momentum. And I've got Simon Hall, your friendly but professional wheel writer, here with me today. Hi, Simon. How are you doing?
I'm great, Paul, and thank you for inviting me along.
Great to have you here. And obviously you write wills, trusts, lasting power of attorney, and probate, and among other things as well. Tell us a bit about your story, your background, and how you got where you are today.
Sure. Well, it's fair to say that writing wills was not the primary aim of my education or career path when I started a few years ago. In fact, probably in the last century, to be fair to say that. And it's from really experience in life that's led me to do what I've done. So if I give you a very sort of potted history of my profession, started in my own business at 16, was a DJ. I was also well and truly introverted. So me doing something like that was pretty weird, but I really love music and still do. By night a DJ, but by day a civil servant. So
Okay.
I worked out by working extremely long hours, places I could hide sleep. You can find places in very large buildings. It all sounds a bit crazy, like I avoided working, but to be fair, it was just trying to work two things. And of course, the two things are very separate.
Yeah.
And really that led me to a point that I went in a different direction, but still to do with entertainment. I became a licensee. In fact, I was, back in 1985, the youngest licensee in the Southwest. At a tender age of 23, you're going to say to yourself, my goodness, I'm but you're only 26 now. But the reality was, yes, I was. It was a huge learning curve. It was a huge learning curve of life and communicating with people. And you had all types of different people to come to your bar or bars. That was a period of 10 years of my life was spent doing that. And it was a certain way that you learnt in a very quick space and time how to communicate. And it was quite interesting because you've got to remember people also were fueled with alcohol. And that changes people's views of life. And so you've got to adapt by that. So it was a good grounding for experience in life. Things changed. 10 years later, I came out of the license trade. I was actually quite pleased to come out, worn out.
So with the license trade, just going back there for a second, whereabouts, was that in the Southwest? Or?
It was, yes. Yeah. Most of my life was hidden in Cornwall.
Okay.
There is life in Cornwall for those out there. I assure you, it's a lovely place to live. I'm from places from Tregadillet, that's near Launceston, right around west down into Truro, out of the county into actually to Somerset, then back into a place called Dunmere, which is on the edge of Bodmin, then moving further west to the Star Inn at St Earth, which is just west of Hale. And that's as far as I went. After that, it was the sea. There weren't many pubs on the sea, so that's where I stopped.
That's great. And after that, so...
Yeah, from there, I branched out into a very short career in hotel management. I'm not, a little story here, I'm not very employable. I realised, actually, I love being self-employed, being my own boss. Yeah. In fact, I can say I am unemployable now. What that led me on to was then working for family. Note to self, don't work for family. I was in the used car trade for a while, so I learned how to sell cars. I have no idea what happens under the bonnet, I have to say, but they look a nice colour. It's a nice interior, sir, don't you think? From there also, cleaning cars. If you want to really work out, you don't need to go to a gym. Go and valet a car seriously for a few days, and you will definitely start to develop muscles where you never thought you could.
I imagine with the waxing and polishing, it's quite strenuous.
It is. Yeah. It is. And some of the cars I was given, there was one car particularly, I remember, it was lived in by an Alsatian, and it left most of its coat actually on the upholstery. About 2 days to completely clean. And you can still smell the Alsatian, even all the shampoo after that. But from there, I went in a completely different direction. I started to chase pests. I was a pest controller. In fact, I was a district surveyor for a very large multinational company. And my area was from the whole of Cornwall and West Devon.
Wow.
And when you logistically know the shape of the counties, both counties, there's a lot of driving involved and a lot of very interesting stories to tell along the way. And people's fear of particularly things like rodents and so on and so forth. It was quite an interesting experience. And I could tell you many stories, but I'll share one with you very briefly. I was called
great.
out to a house, and when I used to go into properties that had issues, I would wear bright red overalls. To
Okay.
get the image, Paul, can you see me with bright red overalls? And the client was complaining of biting insects. That's code for fleas. And they said we didn't understand why, because he wasn't getting bitten, but his partner was really badly. I walked into their lounge, and then I looked down at my legs, and slowly I could see all these biting insects walking up the trousers of my.
Oh my God.
Yes. They were actually walking up on my overalls. I quickly withdrew, went into the car, took these off as quick as possible, shook the overalls, then tied it into the back of the car on the way home. It's a very strange experience. I could have lots of stories like that, but you also get to meet some very unusual people, unusual places you didn't know existed. But fast forward, I then went into the Welfare to Work scheme, which is also quite different. And that was helping people with various challenges and issues get back to work. And that was very interesting. That was when there was lots of money around to spend on helping people to support them, because it's hard to believe when you are employed that you think, well, it's fairly straightforward. I've got a job, I can work. But if you actually lose your job and you end up on some sort of health-related benefit, at that time, it took on average 10 years to get back to work.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. So from the social structure perspective and overcoming these obstacles, it is a slow process, and helping someone support them to enable them to realize they can do things again, whether it's in an employed status or in self-employed status.
So with that side of it, do you think that had some influence on you wanting to help people, or?
I think it's always been there. As a licensee, I've tried to help people off the floor because they drank too much. No, I'm quite often, I'm sure you were, I'm a bit of an agony aunt on that front and the bar side of it. Certainly as a DJ, you would communicate well because you want to please people entertainment-wise. In the car industry, choosing people to help them to get a nice car. Pest people get rid of all their pest problems, and so Welfare to Work was just another way to do that.
Yeah.
But it was incredibly rewarding when you used to watch,
so.
People that you had not worked for quite a considerable amount of time, making those first tentative steps back into the workplace, and step by step, they were starting to regain their confidence, and most importantly, their independence.
That's so interesting. I mean, so with the sort of people, were there patterns to the sort of people what they were experiencing, or in terms of like why they weren't working, or was it really a big variety?
It was broad. So I would be dealing with people with drug and alcohol misuse, ex-offenders, single parents, homeless people. And quite often, people's perception of disability, it's probably, you could say it's changed now because we're a bit more savvy towards it, is if you didn't see an arm or leg, unfortunately, the person had missing arm and leg. The reality is most of this is mental health.
Yeah.
No one walks around with a light on their head saying, I've got a mental health problem.
No.
And what you also don't realize is we can't see behind people's eyes. And quite often, we've all probably had personal challenges in our life.
Yeah.
And it's understanding how you can overcome those if you know the strategies to deal with them. And these are quite often the demons that stop people moving forward or divert them off the path of where they were.
No, that's so interesting. So then, fast forward, what brought you into the will writing?
Well, we hadn't finished the stories, Paul.
Oh, we still there?
So from Welfare to Work, I went on to, in effect, work within a business startup company, which I ran in Plymouth for a large company. And that was my final farewell to being employed.
Okay.
It was enough to say, I've done enough. I can now go and do something for myself.
Yeah.
Which led into a very strange twist of a turn into multi-level marketing in the health and wellness industry, which I really enjoyed. It was so different, and it also used your entrepreneurial skill. But in turn, it's like here today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it was really tough. But it helped me to learn also to accept negativity and people saying no to you. In fact, what they're saying is no to what you're offering, not no to you as a person. And during those times, all being some of the highs, there were also some quite serious lows. And life became a little more challenging probably about 6 years ago, whereby my business had diminished so badly I had to do other things. Now, when you've got a pride pill or a stubbornness pill to deal with, and I had to swallow it, was to get over myself. And I ended up then starting to deliver parcels part-time to supplement my income. That part-time income became a full-time income, but it was a means to an end to
Yeah.
get me going forward again. Explained very in drastic terms, I couldn't even afford to buy a cup of coffee. That's how bad things had got. But I never give up. And the flame of desire inside me has always been there. And back in 2018, it was a strange situation where I actually started to trust my intuition as opposed to being, oh, can I have to go back and get a job? I thought, no, Simon, you're not going to do this. Just believe in what you do, your capability, all that experience of life, all those jobs you've done before. You can do something constructive. So I held the faith. And it was in November 2018, someone approached me on LinkedIn and said, how about becoming a will writer? And my instinct was thinking, don't be so stupid. But the reality was, I went away and thought about it and said, hang on a minute, Simon, you don't know anything about will writing. But what you can do is learn. But the important thing of this was the communicating with people. And I took that leap of faith because I absolutely believed that was a skill that I'd honed and developed through my own personal life experiences, my professional life experiences as well, that helped me to do that, to build that rapport quickly. And it was dealing with a subject which most people don't want to talk about. But I thought, I can do this. And she was a leap of faith.
Oh, that's amazing. And again, obviously, I've heard you talk about the wills and all the other parts to the business as well, and the passion that you've got there is just really inspiring. And it, so what do you think drove you most of all to want to actually go into that?
Help people.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It sounds a really strange thing when you talk about death and actually admitting your own mortality. For many people, that is a real challenge. The irony that over 50% of people, in fact 54% of people in England and Wales do not have a will or a current will, bears testament to that. And quite often, when I sit down, and I said I always meet people in their homes normally, I always joke about drinking their tea and coffee instead of mine. That seems very good. But to watch the relief on someone just think, I last dealt with it, is a big thing. And the general feel of gratitude that you've been able to, I'm not saying unpick, but put in order what's in their head because they're so worried about what's going to happen. What if I die? And what if I've got kids? And what happens to the kids? Because many people think the kids will just go to the parents or go to the godparents. But the reality is, without a will in place and guardianship, there's a high risk that could end up in care. And that's the last thing you want for your children. And it's just making sure that things are put in the right order. So, as I say quite often, it's once you've done that, sort your wills out, but then you can get on and live the rest of your life, which is far more important because we're all here to live, and it's important to enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm always amazed at how you make such a difficult subject to talk about seem so easy. And so if someone is questioning the themselves, do they need a will? What's the questions you would ask to answer that?
It's a great question, Paul. We think sometimes that, well, I haven't got anything. I don't have a house. I haven't got any kids. I've got about £200 in the bank, maybe. I don't even own a property. Why should I have a will? Because more than likely you got someone that you're related to, and that someone cares a lot about you. And if you haven't got something in place that formalizes what you want to do with your estate, it can make it really difficult for them in your absence to deal with it. And quite often, it can also cause a lot of conflict when you've got things that are unsettled or unclear. So it just provides clarity for those people you leave behind. And the reality is, if you actually turn around and say, well, actually, by doing this, you're going to make their role, what they have to do, much more straightforward, stress-free. Would you do it? Probably the answer would be yes, but you don't think in that terms because you think personally you don't have value to leave. But we all can leave something, a mark of our life. There were things that people remember you by, just like your friendly but professional will writer.
Nice twister. That's good. So tell us about the other services that you provide. So there's obviously the wills, but the trusts, where do they come into the equation?
Okay. So where you got things to protect, trust can be used. It can be used like protecting property. It can be used for protecting where you have minors, that's children under 18. That could be put into. So it's where things are unable to be sorted there and then. So there needs to be some sort of security put in place in simple terms, where it enables your trustees, which would have been your executors, probably your estate, to ensure they are able to do that with flexibility and using common sense as well. So, yeah, not every client needs a trust, but certainly every client, generally speaking, will need some sort of will. And then it's how I deal with that. My role simply is to educate people. I'm not there to say you must do this. It's because most people don't understand it. It's simply by explaining it in simple terms that are easy to understand. And then say, these are your options, A, B, C, or whatever that may be. And then you can decide, because the ultimate bit of this, Paul, is to ensure that the client has a peace of mind. So whether it's a will, whether it's to do with trusts, whether it's to do with lasting power of attorney. Just quickly for your listeners, a will is when you pass away. Lasting power of attorney is whilst you're alive to help you maintain independence and decision-making independently for as long as possible. And of course, the other thing called probate, which happens when you pass away, is how you go through the process of dealing with your estate.
Oh, thanks for that. And again, I know the listeners are going to really appreciate that being explained to them, because it is that thing where, you think the first thing you think about is like with wills is, the morbid side of, dying or whatever, but it's so useful to provide that information to people so that they understand it better and, they can make those choices then. So that's really good. So obviously I know that throughout my networking circles and yours as well, you've got yourself a really good name out there for what you do. So I understand you've received a few awards recently. Did you want to just explain?
Yes,
explain those.
Very fortunate. Well, I think one of the quite interesting. It's just an observation of life, and I'm just going back to the old thing of being employed. One of the things that people move from job to job is not because they don't get paid enough; they don't get recognised. And us as human beings, we love to be recognised, even me. And I was nominated as one of the finalists for the Southwest Region FSB Awards for the Freelance of the Year. So I'm an independent will writer. And Linda, my partner, and myself, we were invited to go to Weston-super-Mare, and it was a place called the Winter Gardens, right on the front, just beside the pier. And I was looking forward to the 2-course lunch and hearing people's stories, and thought my name will be read out, and that's it. And that was fine, because the quality and standard of entrance of the awards were very high. The last award of the day was the Freelancer of the Year award. I sat back in my chair just to listen to who the winner was, to clap them on stage. I was shocked. It was me. I was taken aback. It's an incredibly proud moment, and to have received that. And I know we're going forward now to the finals, which are in May. So that's the most recent award. I've been also shortlisted for your partnerships for various awards on their 5th anniversary. That's that's
coming up this month, isn't it?
It is coming up the 25th. Yeah. Well, I'll be there, and so will you. Yes. And also, I'm also part of Entrepreneur Circle, and I've had various nominations for awards on that as well, from Entrepreneur of the Year Award from 2021. And last year, I was also nominated as Ambassador of the Year Award as well. At the moment, just the bridesmaid. I'm sure one day I will be the bride. I'm not sure I look too good in a bridal gown though.
No, so Entrepreneur Circle, I was intrigued to find out more about it. I always felt myself an entrepreneur or focused on achieving that at some point. And I know I attended the event that you were running out at the Hampton by Hilton, and came along. It's networking with a difference, isn't it? It's so do you want to just run through how Entrepreneur Circle works in terms of networking and growth?
Yeah, probably the easiest way to explain this, if you can think about, you can visualize an iceberg. So Entrepreneur Circle is really like an online resource which also provides offline support and training as well to how to effectively market your business. Just under 2 years ago, July 21, as we were coming out of lockdown, the opportunity came up to be an ambassador for the area. And one of my dear friends, Larry Hamilton Wright, decided, said, you can do that. So I went and applied. And yes, I was given the opportunity to be the ambassador for Exeter area. Now, the purpose of Entrepreneur Circle on the ground with the local sort of presence was to run monthly meetings, is what I do, face-to-face. And it brings together lots of local business owners in the area. And the purpose behind that is not to actually, in effect, from a standard networking basis, it's an opportunity to come together to learn new things. Now, it's very much based towards people who want to grow and expand their business, share best practice, learn new things, and actually enjoy it and have fun at the same time. Because I'm a great believer, if you're not enjoying it, you shouldn't do it. You do something else. And it's given me an opportunity to get involved with lots of other businesses. And just like you, Paul, I really enjoy engaging with people. It's not about, oh, you haven't got a will written on your head, I need to talk to you. I want to talk to people that I am inspired by, and hopefully I can inspire others likewise. And it's a collective. We have generally about 20 to 25 attendees every month. And the noting thing, also, we've got a core of people that come along. But every month, there's a different subject matter which you learn. And every month, without fail, I'm also learning from those who are in the room about things I had no idea about. So we're sharing lots of good practice. It feels like a community. And for me personally, that community feel where everybody feels part of something, but at the same time able to contribute is a really important thing. So I actually feel quite humble and privileged to be part of that.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've noticed with it as well, there's I know I've been told before, there's no such thing as a silly question, but when you're running a business and you're trying to be like a figurehead of the organization, sometimes there can be those questions that, you don't want to seem stupid asking something that seems so simple. But when you come along to Entrepreneur Circle, it is that thing where there's other, masterminds there that you can speak to, other business owners. And it's some of those questions that seem so simple, can be answered in confidence as well, and it's you can really gain some traction there with growing your business.
It's true. I think it's realizing that being an entrepreneur, we're both entrepreneurs, we know, but it also can be quite a lonely experience. And people quite often will think on the outside looking in that you do know everything. The reality is you're learning on a day-to-day basis, and you're learning what works and what doesn't work. And hopefully don't keep repeating things that don't work, because that's mad. But ideally, before you make those mistakes or before you explore something, there is someone always in that room that can also help you. But there's a huge online resource. So the tip of the iceberg are those monthly meetings I talked about, the iceberg.
Yes.
Then the huge online resource that's also available for Entrepreneur Circle, which is available to us. And the thing I think is really important to mention is you may have the best business in the world, the best business idea, but unless you're able to effectively communicate with your client base, your potential client base, it will be the best secret in the world And you don't want that to happen. You want to give the opportunity for people to experience what you do. And yes, I've learned so much. Truthfully, in the time I've been part of Entrepreneur Circles, is just over 2 years, the business has transformed. The business started as just me. It's now doubled. My partner Linda is now full time. I got to how I had ever time to even do any of the paperwork now. I can't believe it. We're just about to expand beyond that again and again. So, but it's also our philosophy of how we do things is about sharing. It's about being a win-win situation. That's really important. It's about feeling this community that you belong. And that's our aim. But at the same time, I celebrate so much watching other businesses grow and flourish. It's just a lovely feeling to have.
I know it's really helped me, and I've made some great friends and gained some great clients through the actual network as well. So yeah, that's really, really great. And thank you so much for coming in to speak about everything today, the wills and networking and your story.
It's a pleasure, Paul. And you realise now you can talk about death with a smile on your face and thinking, do you know what? I've got it out of the way. I could get that friendly but professional Will Roger to come on my sofa, drink my tea and coffee and make it so easy. Leave you one note. One client said, I've never laughed so much. So if you want to have a light-hearted conversation about death, you know where to come.
Thanks, Simon. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.